Right, so morning everyone. This is lecture number 19, ME210 Fluid Mechanics. In the last lecture, we started a discussion on dimensional analysis, and I mentioned about the importance of this analysis. And then towards the end of the last lecture, I had told you about the theorem, which can be used very effectively for reducing the number of variables in a given problem. Okay, so let me show you that theorem again. Well, let me write it down. That's okay. So the theorem name is called Buckingham Pi theorem. Okay, so what the theorem says is if we have n number of variables in a problem and we have a total of j dimensions, fundamental dimensions. We have j fundamental dimensions that can be used to describe the problem or to describe all the variables. So if this is the case, then we can actually reduce the functional relationship in the problem from those n variables to n minus j pi parameters. Okay, so we can find these n minus j pi parameters that we'll write as pi 1, pi 2 till pi n minus j. And then the final functional relationship that we had between the n variables can now simply be written as a relationship between these pi parameters. So effectively what we are doing is we are reducing the number of variables in the problem from n to n minus j, which we'll see is a very effective strategy to reduce the number of um, unknowns in the problem. Okay, so let us start with using this theorem. And in fact, before we do that, let us do a quick recap of the principle of dimensional homogeneity. Okay, so this is a quick recap of principle of dimensional homogeneity. Okay, so this is problem number 5.11 from the book. So what the problem says is there was a scientist who gave the relationship between the explosion blast radius or so he said that the when an explosion happens, the wave travels, and with time the radius of the blast increases. So he gave the expression or the relationship between the blast radius or in terms of the energy released E. So that's the energy released from the explosion, the density rho of air, and the time t that is taken for the time t that we are considering. So at time equal to very small times, the radius will be small. As time increases, the radius will increase. Okay, so the problem says that we have to find the relationship between the variables E and T. How are they related in this expression, and how is R related to the other three variables? Okay, so this is a problem that's given to us. So basically we have to use the idea of dimensional homogeneity. So what that means is the radius R has a dimension of length L. The fundamental dimension here is L. So when we write the expression of R in terms of these E, rho and T, the expressions on both sides of equality should have the same dimension. So we have to combine E, rho, and T in such a way so that the dimension comes out to be of the dimension of length. Okay, so that's quite straightforward. In fact, you have probably done that in your high school physics earlier. So what we do is we write the dimension on both sides of the equality. So this expression number 1 that we have. So first, in fact, let us write the dimensions of all the variables. So the dimension of energy, we can do a rough work here. So energy is I mean, we can write it as, let's say, force times displacement, the work done, and force is written as mass times acceleration. So we are just taking any expression to find the dimensions. So mass is m, acceleration is meters per second square, so L by t squared, and then the displacement is length L. So the dimension for energy is mL2 t minus 2. It's always good to write these so that later we can use it without worrying about finding the dimensions. Then dimension of rho is density is kg per meter cube, so mass L minus 3. And the dimension of time is just t. Okay, so we have to use the idea of homogeneity of dimensions. So in 1, we can write on the left hand side we have a dimension of L, so that is L to the power of 1, m to the power of 0, and t to the power of 0. So m, L, and t, you can see, are the 3 fundamental dimensions here. So they should have the same coefficients on both sides. And then energy is ml2 t minus 2, and let's say the coefficient of energy is a, and then the density is ml minus 3, so density to the power of b, and t to the power of c. So what we'll get is we'll get 3 equations in the system. We'll get a system of 3 equations for the unknowns a, b, and c. So for the coefficient m, we can write on the left hand side it is 0. On the right hand side we have a plus b. So that's equation number a. Then for length, on the left hand side we had a 1, and on the right hand side we have twice of a minus 3b. And for t, on the left hand side we have a 0, and on the right hand side we have t coming from minus 2a and then c, so minus 2a plus c. Okay, so when we solve these equations, what we'll get is we'll get a equals 1 upon 5, b equals minus 1 upon 5, and c equals 2 by 5. So this r becomes some constant times e to the power of 1 by 5, rho to the power of minus 1 by 5, and t to the power of 2 by 5. Okay, so that's the relationship we have between r and the other 3 variables on the right hand side. Okay. So this was the idea of principle of dimensional homogeneity, saying that the dimension on both sides have to be the same. Of course, this first equation that was given to us comes from experience, comes from experience of the physical phenomena that we're talking about. And it does depend, the R does depend on E, rho, and T. Okay, so if it did not depend on something, then the coefficient of that would have been 0. But it does depend on it, so there is some relationship that's happening. So the only relationship possible in this case was the one that we derived from the idea of dimensional homogeneity. Is that clear? Right. So now that we have recapped the idea of the principle of dimensional homogeneity, let's move on to the Buckingham Pi theorem, which is a very strong theorem in dimensional analysis. And almost any fluid mechanicist, or for that matter, any engineer knows about this theorem and should be comfortable applying this. So let's solve example number 5.2. So I'll explain to you the theorem and its usage through 3 different examples in today's lecture. So the first example that we'll do is the same aerofoil example, the lift on an aerofoil example that we discussed last time. So it's been seen from experience that the lift acting on an aerofoil is a function of the length of the aerofoil, the wind speed across the aerofoil, the density and viscosity of the fluid. So it's this kind of a functional relationship that we have obtained from experience. The question is, obtain the pi parameters, or find the pi parameters. And write the simplified functional relationship. So that is the question. Right. So in this case, we have let's work out the steps in the theorem. So the first step is to find n, that is the number of variables in the problem. So we have a total of 5 variables. One is the lift force Fl. Then on the other 4 are these, which is length, velocity, density, and viscosity. So n is equal to 5. Next is to find the number of fundamental dimensions which are required to write these 5 variables. So if you write the dimensions of all the 5 variables, you will see that you require only 3 dimensions, fundamental dimensions, m, l, and t. Okay. Temperature theta is not required in this case. So the next step is to find 3, or j, which is equal to 3 in this case, variables. Okay, so this is something new, so pay attention. So find j variables out of these 5 variables that we have in the problem. So find 3 variables in this case out of these 5 variables, such that they do not form a non-dimensional group or a pi group. Or sorry, a pi product. So we have to make a choice of 3 variables now, so that any combination of those 3 variables should not result in a non-dimensional number. So they should be independent. 3 of them should be independent in some sense. Okay. And the other thing is that So these three variables, I mean, in some cases you can choose a multiple set of three variables. There's no unique choice of these three variables. So this choice of three variables or these three variables, I should say, so these three variables should be general. Okay, the word general here means that since they will appear in all other pi parameters, so they should be general as they will appear in all pi parameters. Okay, so in this case, we choose, let us say, the length L, the velocity V, and the density rho. So then, if we have made a choice, these three look general enough: length, velocity, and density. And let us see if they actually form a pi product. So the way we check that is, we say L to the power of A, V to the power of B, and density to the power of C should, I mean, if they form a pi product, if they form a non-dimensional number, then this will result in M0, L0, T0. So we can check. So the length L has a dimension of L, velocity has a dimension of meters per second, so LT minus 1, and density is kg per meter cube. So we can solve the three equations, and in fact we don't even need to do that, because we can check. So T appears only in this term, and on the right hand side T is 0. So this means your B is 0, and then M appears only in this term, and on the right hand side M has a 0 coefficient. So that means C is also 0, and if B and C both are 0, then the only way L can have a 0 here is if A is 0. Okay, so that is trivial. I mean, of course, if A, B, and C all are 0, then this is going to be non-dimensional, but that does not make it anything. That is going to be equal to 1 equals to 1. So basically, L, V, and rho, they indeed, well, they do not form a pi product. So this is a good choice. Well, I shouldn't say good choice, is an acceptable choice. Okay, so we have chosen three variables, L, V, and rho, because J was equal to 3 in this case. Okay, so let us move to the next step now. So now we have to find the pi parameters. So in this case, we have n minus j pi parameters. That is, we have 5 minus 3 equal to 2 pi parameters, which are pi 1 and pi 2. So now we have to find these pi parameters. That is the next job. So the way we do that is so let's find pi1. So out of those 5 variables, we chose 3 as to represent the 3 fundamental variables. So the other 2 will now form will be used to write the pi parameters. So the first one was lift force. So what we do is we write Fl to the power of 1, and then the other 3 variables that we had chosen, L takes a power A, V takes a power B, and the third was density to the power C. Okay, so these A, B, and C are not the same as previous case. They are 3 coefficients we have to, the 3 powers we have to find, exponents we have to find. Okay, so what we are trying to do is we are trying to write FL, we are trying to non-dimensionalize FL using the 3 variables L, V, and rho. So this combination of FL and some powers of L, V, and rho will ultimately result in one non-dimensional number. So that was the whole idea. Because FL has 3 fundamental dimensions, ML and T, and L, V, and rho we just saw that they can be used to represent those 3 fundamental dimensions. They're like bases. So we now want to write FL in terms of L, V, and rho dimensionally, so that pi1 becomes non-dimensional. Okay, so pi1 is non-dimensional. So from the principle of dimensional homogeneity, this is M0, L0, T0, and the dimensions of F. So force is well, mass times acceleration. I don't need to do that. So force is mass times acceleration. So mass is m, and acceleration is meters per second square. This is to the power of 1, and then LA, velocity is meters per second, and density is kg per meter cube. So I can now equate the coefficients. The coefficient of m on the left hand side is 0, on the right hand side is 1 from the first term, and then from the fourth term is c. Similarly for L, so this implies that c is equal to -1 straight away. So we got the value of c. So the next for the L, we get 0 on the left hand side as the exponent. On the right hand side, we get 1 from the first term, A from the second term, B from the third term, and -3c from the fourth term. And for T, we get 0 from the left term, -2 from the first term on the right hand side, minus B from the third term on the right hand side. That's it. So this straight away gives me B equals to -2. Okay, so now using the values of B and C in the expression for L, so we get, so this gives us 0 equal to 1 plus A, and B is -2 and C is -1, so this becomes a 3. Okay, so 3 plus 1 is 4, minus 2 is 2, so A becomes -2. Sorry, -2. Right. So this gives us pi1 as FL, L to the power of A, which is L to the power of -2, this expressions, and V to the power of B, which is V to the power of -2, and C to the power, so rho to the power of C, which is rho to the power of -1. So I can now write this pi1 as FL divided by rho V square L square. And this, if you remember the discussion from last lecture, this we call the CL, the lift coefficient. So that was pi1. So you can see that the expressions, the lift coefficient and the Reynolds number I wrote last time, we are actually getting that by ourselves. So the next one is to find pi2. So pi2 now can be written as so we had total of 5 variables. We took, let's go back. So out of those 5 variables, we have taken L, V, and rho as the fundamental variables, and FL has been used. So the next one is rho. So next one is mu, the viscosity. So to find pi2, we write this as mu to the power of 1, and then L to the power of A, V to the power of B, and rho to the power of C. Okay, so some combinations of A, B, and C now will help us non-dimensionalize mu. Okay, very similar exercise. Now the dimensions for mu. So mu is written as the ratio of the shear stress to d theta by dt. So that is a 1 by time. And shear stress is nothing but force per unit area. That's a stress. And force is mass times acceleration. So m times meters. Sorry. That is force divided by L square, that is area, and divide by 1 by t. So t goes on the top. This becomes L m, and then L to the power of minus 1 and t to the power of minus 1. Okay, this to the power of 1. And then we have LA. Velocity was Lt minus 1. And density was ml minus 3. Right. So again, well, I won't do the same steps again. So when you solve this, let me write the equations just for this case. So for m, it is 0 equals 1 plus c. For L, it is 0 equals minus 1 plus A plus B minus 3C. And for T, we have 0 equals minus 1 minus B. Okay, so when we solve this, we get A equals minus 1, B equals minus 1, and C equals minus 1. So basically our pi2 then becomes mu L minus 1, V minus 1, rho minus 1. Or I can write this in a more convenient form as mu upon rho V L. Okay, so that is our pi2 parameter. And this actually is nothing but 1 upon Reynolds number. Okay, so we briefly talked about Reynolds number in the very beginning of the lecture, but I'm just telling you that this is what is called 1 by Reynolds number. We'll talk more about it in the next lecture. Okay. So we have found out successfully the two pi parameters, pi1 and pi2. And the whole idea of using this Buckingham pi theorem was to reduce the number of variables in the functional relationship. So what we now can write finally we can write our lift coefficient CL is some function f1 of 1 by RE. Or I could simply write a function of RE, because if something is a function of 1 by RE, it's also a function, some other function of RE. So I can say that CL is a function of RE. So that's amazing, because in the beginning we started with a relationship of FL as a function of 4 variables. So if you had to do experiments, you would have to vary all those 4 variables independently, and tabulate it using lots of experiments and lots of data. Now what you can do is you can simply vary the Reynolds number and then find the CL values, and then draw, and since there are only 2 parameters here, so you can draw a curve, and that curve represents, it has all the information you need for your design purposes. It has all the information about a given shape of aerofoil that you are dealing with, all sizes, all different fluids, um, all velocities of fluid moving against the aerofoil. Everything is contained in this relationship. Okay, so this is, I'll write, this is as far as the Buckingham-Pai theorem can take us. Well, Buckingham-Pai theorem and the principle of dimensional analysis. Because Buckingham-Pai theorem only lets us find out the value of pi 1 and pi 2 in this case. But this relationship is coming from the principle of dimensional analysis. So what I mean is with as far is because Buckingham-Pai theorem or the dimensional analysis cannot give you the value of f1. It cannot tell you what the functional form is, because this is purely based on dimensional principles. It does not contain the actual physics of the problem that is happening. So is it re to the power of square, re to the power of sorry, if is the function if the function re to the power square, re to the power 1 by 3, whatever it is, that functional relationship is not known. All we know is that if we change re, then CL changes, and these are the only 2 variables that vary, or CL is only a function of re, nothing else. Okay. So let us reinforce our understanding of this theorem with a couple of more examples. So example 5.3, and the reason I'm doing all these examples is because principle of dimensional analysis, or the dimensional analysis principle, is actually is a bit of an art when working with it. So one has to practice a few problems to be able to get comfortable with the methods. So 5.3 is regarding a centrifugal pump. Okay, so you have a centrifugal pump, and in a pump you have to give it some power, and when the fluid passes through the pump, the pressure of the fluid is increased. So that energy that we supply to the pump is converted to some sort of pressure energy of the fluid. So the power input P to a centrifugal pump is a function of the following. Okay, so this is again coming from experience. So one is the volume flow rate Q. The other is impeller diameter D. So the pump, centrifugal pump, has a rotating impeller. So this is the impeller diameter. Next is the rotation rate, that is the RPM of the impeller. And the next are the fluid properties, density and viscosity. Okay, so what we've seen is power varies as a function of these 5 variables. So we can write the power as some function of Q, D, omega, rho, and mu. So what we have to do is we have to rewrite this as a dimensional as a dimensionless relationship. Okay, and it's already given to us using omega, rho, and d as the repeating variables. So that's the problem that's given to us. Okay, so let's start with our exercise again. So n, the number of variables in this problem is 6. It's power, volume flow rate, diameter of the impeller, rotation rate of the impeller, and density and viscosity of the fluid. 6 variables. The number of fundamental dimensions is 3. So when you write all the dimensions, you will see that everything can be written as in the form of in terms of mass, length, and time. There's no temperature here. Next is the 3 fundamental variables we have to choose. It's already given to us that we have to use omega, rho, and d as repeating variables. Okay, and we can check that. Well, you check it yourself that they do not form a pi product. Okay. So next is if they do not form a pi product, then we can define 6 minus 3, that is equal to 3 pi parameters. So the first one is pi 1. So pi 1 we write in terms of the power p. So this becomes p, and then you have the 3 variables, omega to the power of a, and then density to the power of b, and diameter to the power of c. So this is non-dimensional. So we have m0, l0, t0, and the dimensions of power are m, l2, t minus 3. Okay. And then dimensions of rotation rate are 1 by t, revolutions per second. So just 1 by t. Density is m kg per meter cube, ml minus 3, and diameter is simply L. All right, so this is it, and using the same ideas that we have discussed, you can find your pi 1 now is going to be p. The exponent of omega is minus 3, exponent of rho is minus 1, and exponent of d is minus 5. So you can check it yourself. I just want to save time in the lecture here. Hence, I am writing the final expression after solving the 3 equations for A, B, and C. Okay, so this pi 1 can also be written as a fraction. So p upon rho omega minus 3 d minus 5. So this in fact has a name, is called the power coefficient Cp. We'll see later in this course when we talk about briefly about turbo machines, turbo machinery, then we'll talk about these coefficients, and I'll come back, I'll refer to these. So when you work in turbo machinery, you just use the words power coefficient, flow rate coefficient, and so on. Okay, so this is 1. Next is to find pi2. Now pi2 we find for the other variable, which was q. Okay, so we just used so d, omega and rho are the fundamental. Now we'll use q and then we'll use mu. So this is well, in fact, now I can leave it to you to find the pi2, and I will simply write the final expression. So pi2 is q upon omega d cube. So you see that there is no density. So what you will see is that the coefficient of density will come out to be 0. That b will come out to be 0 when you do it yourself. Okay, so this is my pi2. In fact, this is called flow or discharge coefficient. Or sometimes simply discharge. And then pi3, again I leave it to you to find it, and this is mu upon rho omega d square. Okay, this in fact I can write it as mu, and then omega times d, I can take it in a bracket, and then I can write d to understand the physical significance of this. Now omega times d is like rotor speed. So if you have a rotor which is rotating in a pump, then omega is its angular velocity, and then d is its diameter. So I mean, it's omega times d, or omega times d by 2 is some sort of the surface speed. Okay, so this is like a Reynolds number: density, velocity of the rotor, and some length scale, which is the diameter of the rotor in this case. So this is some sort of a 1 by Reynolds number. Okay, so we have successfully found out the 3 pi parameters, and finally we can write we can write pi1 as some function f1 of pi2 and pi3, or I can say the pressure power coefficient is some function of the discharge and the 1 by Reynolds number. And again, this expression that we have found out tells us everything about a given type or a given shape of a pump with having a certain kind of impeller. It's only these 3 variables that matter. So power coefficient as a function of flow coefficient. I shouldn't write Q, I should write CQ, sorry. As a function of flow coefficient and Reynolds number, or 1 by Reynolds number. Okay, so this expression about a pump of a particular shape, or we also say of a particular homologous series. Okay, smaller pumps, bigger pumps, it doesn't matter, as long as the shape is the same, as long as they are from the same homologous series, then I know the relationship between them. So I can use these ideas to scale down or scale up and understand how the scaled down or scaled up version will behave. Okay, so let's solve one more example. This one's particularly interesting. This one says that for a laminar flow situation, that is, well, you can understand it as low velocities. Very vaguely as low velocities. So laminar flow is when the flow is such that it moves in layers. We will discuss more about it later. The flow is not turbulent. It's nice and laminar. So for these situations, what we have seen is that the volume flow rate that is Q through a small bore tube. Okay, so you have a bore tube that you typically have a bore well. So you bore a hole in the earth surface, and we have noticed that for low velocities, the volume flow rate Q is only a function of two variables. Oh, sorry, three variables. Only a function of the first one is the bore radius. Okay, the second one is the viscosity of the fluid. And the third one is the pressure drop per unit length. Okay, the fluid will rise up in this because of the pressure difference. There will be high pressure here and there will be low pressure here. Okay, so dP by dx is what matters. Okay, so we have seen that the flow rate is a function of R, mu and dP by dx. So our job is to apply the Buckingham pi theorem and find the three dimensionless, find the pi parameters and then write the functional relationship for the dimensionless variables or the pi parameters. So let's now quickly, now that we are experts in Buckingham pi theorem, so n is equal to 4. So n is 4, q, r, mu and dP by dx. The number of fundamental dimensions is 3, again MLT in this case, and you can again check yourself that if we choose whatever was on the right hand side, that is R, mu and dP by dx as repeating variables, so if we choose these three repeating variables, then they do not form a pi product. Okay, so you can check it yourself. So once we have done that, then we can find 4 minus 3, which is equal to only one pi variable, okay, pi parameter. So only one pi possible, that is pi 1. So pi 1 is q, and then you can have your r to the power of a, mu to the power of b, and dP pi dx to the power of c. Okay, so I'll let you fill in the steps here. I'll just write the final expression, which is pi is equal to q times mu upon r4 and then dP by dx. Okay, so this is the only pi variable we have. That's it. So what is the functional relationship now? So since there is only one pi variable, so that means this pi 1 is equal to constant, because earlier we had pi 1 equal to some function of other pi variables, but there is no other pi variable. That means this has to be constant. So what that means is this q mu upon r4 dP by dx, this is constant. Okay, again, this is as far as dimensional analysis can take us. Okay, we cannot find the value of C, but at least we can find that this ratio is simply a constant. And in fact, we will show in the later part of the course that this C is equal to minus pi by 8. All right. And it will be a very interesting experience to see that we indeed can find this whole relationship from the equations of mass and momentum balance. And we also got the same equation from the idea of dimensional analysis very quickly. Right. So we'll stop here. I'll stop the recording now. In case you have a question, you can ask. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next lecture.